Potato famine. Hey, Mr. Coffee. I want to have you record this and keep it. Kind of like 51st dates. And just every morning I want you to wake up and see my face and remind you of potato famine. So you can remind Leisha.
Chapter 19. Tyler woke with a jolt to find Mr. and Mrs. Connors sound asleep in the two chairs on either side of his bed. Tyler squeezed his way out of the bed, contorting his body so that he wouldn't jolt Quinn's feet, which were resting on the end of the bed. Poor Evie, she was sound asleep, curled up in a chair. She looked so tiny and frail. Tyler took a blanket and put it around her shoulders, making sure to cover her bare arms. He silently crept his way out of the room and headed for the kitchen to make a pot of coffee. By the time Evie had woken up and discovered him gone, Tyler had made bacon and eggs and was working on the toast. Evie padded out to the kitchen and smiled at him. "How are you feeling, love?" "Fine, actually. Bit of a headache, but I think a Tylenol will take care of it," he said, giving her a quizzical look. "You don't remember last night, do you?" "I remember my head starting to pound and then getting sick, but I don't remember anything after that. Did I call you?" "You dialed our number, but we couldn't hear anything other than you moaning and emptying your stomach," Evie said. Quinn nodded as he came around the corner. "You had us worried, son. We found you on the bathroom floor, moaning and otherwise unresponsive. And once we finally got some pills into you, you settled down, except for the few times you yelled out to some woman named Bridget. I first thought that it was that woman who left you, but then I remembered that Bridget is the name of your ghost," Evie said, while patting his arm. "Tyler, that scared the bejesus out of me. I thought we were going to lose you, calling out for a long-dead woman like that. I'm sorry I scared you both. The problem with this tumor is that I have a day like that every once in a while, but not often enough to go into the emergency surgery. I do have the surgery scheduled for next month," Tyler explained while dishing out heaping plates of food for his unexpected but much appreciated guest. "I called the local doctor and he gave me a number to a neurologist in Cork. He wants you to call him and have your files sent over so that you can have someone on the island who knows your history, just in case," Quinn said, handing Tyler a slip of paper in exchange for a plate full of food. Tyler put the paper into his pocket and promised Quinn that he would call them that very morning, as well as his doctor back home. "We need the information on your people, Tyler. If something happens, we need to know who to call. You wouldn't want your mother getting a call from some random person at the hospital, or worse, if something bad happens." "Oh, yeah," Tyler said just before shoving a piece of bacon in his mouth. He walked over to the countertop and grabbed his Filofax. He wrote down his parents' numbers as well as his brother's. "If anything bad happens, please call my brother Ben first." Quinn took the page from Tyler and folded it neatly. "Will do." Again, Tyler said while refilling Quinn's coffee cup. "I'm so sorry I scared you both. To be honest, I don't remember trying to call you." "I thought that strange, too, since we found you on the bathroom floor and your phone was on your bed," Evie said. "Figured that you were trying to call us, then had to run to the bathroom. We heard you moaning and retching, but obviously you couldn't hear us, so we dropped everything and came over. The strange thing," Quinn cut off, "was that the front door was wide open, like you had left it open for us," Evie finished for him. That is strange. The pain was probably so bad at that point that I just don't remember any of it, Tyler confided in them. Weirdest all around, Quinn agreed, and stood up to bring his and his wife's plates over to the sink. So, how are you really feeling? Much better by the way you cooked up this tasty breakfast, Evie asked. I feel better, just a touch of a headache, but I already took a painkiller. I imagine I wouldn't be doing much of anything today because, honestly, I feel completely drained. Tyler, I don't want you doing anything today. Either Quinn or I will check on you later today, but in the meantime, I don't want you doing anything. You understand? Yes, ma'am, Tyler agreed with all sincerity. He was too wiped out to do much of anything. He wasn't even sure if he was going to be able to write. I'll probably just shower and crawl back into bed and watch movies all day. Nothing more strenuous than that. Okay, good. We need to get back home, but keep your phone close and call us if you need us. And please, this time, boy, call us before you're lying on the bathroom floor, hugging the toilet like it's your mama's breast. Tyler fought back a grin and agreed. Evie came over and kissed his cheek and ran a pale, arthritic hand through his hair. He knew behind that gentleness Mrs. Connors was as strong as an ox. He remembered a little bit from the night before, and he could have sworn it was she who carried him from the bathroom to the bedroom. Surely it had to be Quinn, but in his memory it was Evie. He shook the thought from his mind and walked them both out to their car, thanking them both again. Quinn wouldn't start the car until he got one more promise from Tyler that he would call them at the first sign of trouble. After watching the Connors drive away, Tyler walked into the house. The morning was foggy, and he felt in his bones that it was going to rain. He wanted to call Ben before he called this new Irish doctor, just to let him know what was going on. He both wanted and didn't want his brother to come to Ireland right now. He followed his heart and promised himself that he would ask his brother to come. He went into the cottage and washed the dishes and put them on the drying rack. It was still very early in the morning, not even 8 yet. He thought he would take a shower and crawl back into bed for a few hours. His head was beginning to hurt, so he sent his brother a quick text. Tyler grabbed his phone and punched in, "Headache's getting worse. Can you come? Make sure I don't keel over and keep me focused on getting the book done," and he hit send. He had just reached the bathroom door when his phone pinged. "I'm on the next flight out. I'll have a flight info as soon as I get to the airport. FBI owed me a favor." Tyler sighed and turned the water on in the shower, and then he went back into the bedroom to grab a clean set of sweats and a pair of socks. He threw some more wood onto the burning embers in the fireplace and went to take that shower. Tyler took one of the stronger painkillers before getting into the shower. He felt his scalp tightening as he was hoping to cut off the pain before it had a chance to take hold. Tyler hated these extra strong painkillers. They made him feel weird and have even weirder thoughts. He shucked off his clothes and got into the steaming hot shower. As the water flowed over his tired muscles, his mind began to wander. He thought first of Bridget. Did she really turn around when he called her name? What would she look like if she were well fed and her hair was down? Why didn't modern women have that ethereal beauty that Bridget wore so naturally? Did he have a crush on her? That would be insane. Then he thought about his book. How was he going to get it finished? What if he turned everything over to his agent and had her get a ghostwriter to finish it? He had his notes, so he could make sure it ended the way he wanted it to end. Ben wouldn't have a problem handling that for him if need be. His family just wanted him to get the surgery and live a long, long life. He slowly rinsed his hair, each drop hitting his head and adding to the pain he was trying to avoid. By the time he had gotten the last of the soap out of his hair, he was leaning against the wall with his head on the cool shower tiles. The pain was back. He had no appreciation for the large amount of painkillers running through his system. Leaning against the shower wall, he felt the walls shift. The room was gearing up to spin. The second he started to feel like his hair was on his head too tight, he knew that the pain was going to reach a new level of excruciating. His scalp felt like it was tearing apart to make room for his expanding skull as the pain swelled in his brain. His stomach began to lurch, and he begged himself not to cry. Tyler admonished himself for being so stubborn. He had to get the book done, that damn book. For the first time, he really didn't care about the book. He just wanted this agonizing, torturous pain to stop. He stood up to turn the water off, and his razor caught the corner of his eye. He picked it up and turned the handle to release the blade. Holding it between his fingers and turning it around, he contemplated what he was thinking, what he was going to do with it. Tyler looked at the razor and thought that this would be one way to end the pain. All it would take was one slice down his arm, and he would slowly drift away, taking his blood and the pain down the drain. It would be gone, and he wouldn't ever feel it again. The pain he was experiencing now was so much worse than when he broke his leg playing soccer, sharper even when the broken bone poked through his skin. He pictured that day clearly. He was the one lying on the field bleeding, but it was Ben who was in tears. His older brother, his hero, sat beside him on the grass, sobbing, until the ambulance and his parents arrived. Was getting rid of the pain he was feeling now worth the pain he would cause his brother? He shook his head. No, that wasn't something he would ever do. Not to his family, especially not to Ben. Ben would be the one to find him, dead on the bathroom floor, deflated of all life. Ben would never forgive him for that. He turned to put the razor back, and a shot of pain ripped through his skull. He reached for the wall to steady himself and balled his hands into fists, the razor cutting into his palm. "Shit," he mumbled, and grabbed for a towel outside the shower to stop the flow of blood. As his blood dripped onto the bathroom floor, the shower curtain flew open. Tyler jumped and fell to the bottom of the shower. He kneeled on the tiles and tried to catch his breath. Once he was able to stand, he went to the sink and braced himself, more focused on the blood coming out of his hand than the pain in his head. He shuffled through the drawers looking for bandages or gauze to wrap it in. Tyler reached up to the medicine cabinet and stopped short. Written in the steam, he saw the words, "Stop. Please don't." Questioning his sanity, he stared at the mirror. He focused on the words, watching them as they began to fade. He pulled himself together and ran to get his phone. He took a picture of the mirror as the words disappeared. He grabbed a wad of gauze out of the medicine cabinet and hastily wrapped it around his hand. Using his teeth, he ripped the gauze and tied it snug. He grabbed a towel and stumbled to his bed and crawled in, even though his body was still wet from the shower and he was completely naked. He texted the picture to his brother with the message, "Do you see what I see, or am I batshit crazy?" Tyler rolled over onto his stomach, his arms scrunching the pillow under his head. He kept his hand on the phone so that he would be able to find it when Ben texted him back, and he fell asleep like that. His muscular shoulder muscles rolled as he heaved in breath of air after breath. His sleek back was covered in sweat, and the sheets clung to his body. Exhaustion took over, and he slipped into a soft, peaceful sleep. He opened his eyes and saw a woman sitting on his bed. He recognized her immediately. "Bridget? Aye? How are you here? You're asleep, but I am here." "Was that you in the shower?" "Aye." "I wasn't going to do it," Tyler insisted. "I didn't know that. It looked like you were thinking hard on it," Bridget said, her voice soft and lyrical. "I did not want you to face the same eternity I am." "But you didn't kill yourself," Tyler told her. "Aye, but I did," Bridget informed him, and then quickly changed the subject. "Have you had this head pain long?" "Only for the last 6 months or so. I have a tumor growing in my brain. I need to get it removed, but I can't just yet." "Because of your book?" Yes, because of the book. How did you know I was here? I haven't been able to communicate with anyone else before. Why you? Oh, Bridget, I don't know. I thought you were a product of my tumor, but then I thought perhaps you were also a figment of my imagination until I found out that you were a real person. Do you know anything about Jasper, Elizabeth, and Thomas? Nothing more than that they went to America, but I can see what I can find out. I would appreciate it. Tyler just looked at her, in a white nightgown with her hair flowing down her back and a sheet of deep red silk. Her eyes weren't blue, but they weren't exactly green either. They were more like a dark teal, bright, like a polished Paraiba tourmaline. He found them to be enchanting. Why are you looking at me like that? You're beautiful. If it was possible for a ghost to blush, Bridget was doing so. Tyler smiled as the soft blush spread across Bridget's creamy white skin. He wanted to touch her, but was afraid she would vanish, like a reflection in a pool of water when you run your fingertips through it, breaking the surface tension. I need to know, is what you showed me in my dreams true? I cannot show you anything that didn't actually happen, Bridget told him. She stood in his bedroom and wrung her hands, as if she wasn't sure what she should be doing. Can you show me the things I couldn't find? Where were you buried, Bridget? Do you know? What about the baby you lost? Where is Patrick buried? Come, I'll show you, Bridget said, and walked toward the front of the cottage. Tyler jumped out of bed to find himself fully dressed. He looked down in confusion, because only a second ago he was naked under the covers. Weird things happen in dreams, he thought. Tyler followed Bridget out the front door, and they walked down the street to the cemetery that was located adjacent to St. Declan's Monastery. She was moving quickly down the road in a half-walk, half-glide motion. Tyler watched her hair sway from side to side down her back as she led him to the tiny, blank gravestone that was the only proof that Patrick Chance existed. Tyler watched Bridget as she stood there, mourning her son. Her face was serene, peaceful, but a single tear slid down her cheek and trailed underneath her chin. Tyler reached out to touch her and wasn't at all surprised that his hand went right through her shoulder. She turned to look at him, her eyes wet, a wan smile on her face. I have never been able to understand why God would give you such a gift only to take it away before you had a chance to love it. I've never understood that either, Tyler whispered. Even today, babies are born dead. He stood there and waited patiently while Bridget knelt down and pulled the weeds off of her son's grave. He let her take all the time she needed. He just stood there and watched her, her every move, the way she wiped a tear away with the back of her hand, the way she ripped the weeds out of the ground as if they were offensive to her son, and the way her shoulders sagged and then stiffened right before she stood up again. Those weeds will be the death of me, she said to Tyler as she brushed the dirt off her hands. Tyler choked back a grin that Bridget noticed, and she laughed. You got me there. Her laugh was like the tinkling of a wind chime in a soft coastal breeze. Tyler stopped short, and Bridget almost ran right through him. What's wrong? Bridget asked. Nothing. I get concerned when I start to get all poetic. Nothing wrong with poets. They are, after all, our storytellers, our songwriters, and the keepers of our legends and beliefs, Bridget said softly. And they're what make grown men fools and drunks. Aye, there is truth in that, Bridget smiled. So, where to next? Tyler looked at her and hesitated before asking her if she knew where she was buried. That I do not know. My body was carted off with the rest of the village's dead. There were too many to have services for all of us, and I would not have been happy if Jasper spent our coins to bury me instead of taking care of the children. Tyler scratched behind his ear and inclined his head towards her. So, you don't know where they took you? It doesn't matter. I wasn't there. I was at the cottage. I've been at the cottage for a very long time, Bridget told him. Bridget, Tyler asked, how did you not go mad from loneliness? I don't know, Tyler. I don't know. I imagine once you are dead and in limbo like I am, you cannot change. Tyler felt comfort upon hearing his name coming from her lips. He marveled at her. She was here, and he was talking to her. So, if you were mad to begin with, you would be mad in limbo? Something like that, she said as she stepped onto the porch of the cottage and waited for him to open the door. Tyler went in and noticed how cold the cottage was, and when he turned to mention that to Bridget, he saw that she was gone. Tyler woke to find the blankets on the floor. The fire had gone out, and he was completely naked and freezing. Bridget wasn't there, which made him feel much colder than he actually was. He grabbed the blankets and wrapped them around his body, and took the sweats he was planning on wearing and tossed them into the dryer to warm up while he made a fire. He realized that he wasn't in any pain and that he felt kind of hungry. He would get warm first and eat after. Somehow he didn't think either one would fill the emptiness he was feeling, since Bridget wasn't there. He felt her lack of presence as keenly as he felt the shivers that ran up his spine and the aching of his stomach. After the fire was roaring and he was in his sweats, fresh and warm from the dryer, he went into the kitchen and noticed that it wasn't even 1 in the afternoon. He pulled out some ham and cheese and would make himself some lunch before picking up the phone to call the doctor in Cork. While he ate, he managed to call the new doctor and give him the information he would need to get in touch with his regular neurologist in the States. He then called his neurologist and gave him the information on the new doctor. Once all the medical stuff was taken care of, he checked his texts and saw that his brother was already halfway to New York from San Francisco. Tyler logged onto his computer to find out what he could learn about Bridget's family. He searched for a good 45 minutes before he was able to track them to Boston. He was able to find out that Jasper remarried 2 years after arriving there, and Elizabeth and Thomas grew up in Boston. He was able to find an old register from the ship that brought them safely to Boston, but nothing further. He shot off a couple of emails to colleagues who might be able to help him. The weather was warmer today, so he took his laptop outside and sat on the porch while he got some work done. He couldn't wait to tell Bridget what he had found out about her family, but he felt stupid talking to an empty cottage, so he would wait until he was asleep, if that was the way it worked. He hoped that was the way it worked. Tyler spent the rest of the day writing. The only time he interrupted his work was when Evie called to see if he was all right. He told her he was fine and working, and once again thanked them for taking such good care of him. He also let them know that his brother was on his way from the States, and he couldn't wait for him to meet them. Evie was delighted, and insisted that Tyler bring Ben over for dinner as soon as he got there and was settled. Later that afternoon, Tyler went into town to pick up his dinner at the local pub so that he could bring it home and not have to worry about cooking and cleaning up. He was in a great writing flow, and he wanted to take advantage of it while he was feeling well. He made a quick run to the store after picking up his dinner and bought some soda and a bouquet of flowers. Tyler stopped off at the cemetery and walked straight to the little stone that marked where baby Patrick was buried. He was amazed to see that the weeds had been cleared from around the stone. He shook his head, wondered how that could be possible. While saying a prayer, he laid the flowers down on the little grave. He turned and walked back to his car and headed home, feeling a bit sadder than when he had left the cottage. When he got home, he flipped open his laptop and saw 2 things typed onto a blank document. The first was in Gaelic. He could tell by the words, but he didn't know what it meant. It read, Jasper sic maith sa toin ata de blith air. Tyler ran it through Google Translate to find out that it said, Jasper needs a good kick in the arse. Tyler laughed. Not at all happy that he'd gotten remarried, are you? Tyler said to the empty room. Underneath the line cursing Jasper, it said, "Thank you for remembering my baby boy." Tyler was surprised that Bridget had seen him placing flowers on the baby's grave. "I'm so sorry, Bridget. No one should ever have to go through what you have." He didn't get a response from her, but he didn't expect to. But the smell of honeysuckle wafting through the air let him know that she'd heard him.
You know you've made it in the world when potato famine is trending. Cha-ching! Thank you, Jordan.
You know, that whole potato famine thing kind of made me feel like a rock star. High five, Jordan. Good job. Fame and fortune. Not to mention, you know, plenty of action. I'm gonna go watch Spinal Tap now.